black swan event. A black swan event is something that can't be predicted ahead of time, has a major effect, and in retrospect, even though you couldn't predict it, you can say, oh man, that's why that happened. And a classic example of that is the sinking of the Titanic. Nobody predicted that the Titanic was going to sink ahead of time, okay? People were struggling to get tickets on the Titanic right up to the last moment. People were outbidding everybody, and that didn't go so well. It had a major effect. The Titanic wasn't just the ship sinking. I mean, aside from the loss of lives and so on, it completely transformed everything from how the radio waves were handled to maritime safety to how you thought about safety and so on. So huge, huge effect. Completely transformed shipping as well. And in retrospect, you can say, oh, those were the design issues that doomed the Titanic. Those were the captain's decisions. Those were the companies, hey, let's charge at full speed ahead through this icy area that doomed the Titanic. So there's lots of things that could not have been predicted, but that retrospectively you can use to analyze. And of course, sadly, we've been through a major black swan event, namely the COVID pandemic. And in a certain sense, it's not over yet. So we have these events, and what happens when you go through one of these events? Well, you have four possible paths. One path is the most unfortunate one, which is called existential risk. In existential risk, you go through the black swan event, and actually you don't go through it, you go bye-bye, okay? That's existential risk is when it's, whether it's an individual or an organization, whatever, the black swan event completely means that you cease to exist. Certainly happened to the Titanic. A second one is near-term risk. Near-term risk is when you go through a black swan event, and when you go through a black swan event, and you come up with near-term risk, you are somewhat injured, you can keep on going, but the odds are pretty good that in the long term, your health isn't going to be great. You see that a lot, for instance, with businesses now after the pandemic. They made it through a pandemic, but they're not looking great for the long term. So that's near-term risk. The outcome most people talk about as being desirable is resilience. And resilience, you come through the black swan event, you say you're out the other end pretty much the way you went in. Yes, you took a hit. Yes, there was some pain. Yes, there were difficulties, but you're pretty much in the shape you were in before. However, there's a better result, and this is a result that Nassim Taleb, who's a researcher in systems, calls anti-fragility. And anti-fragility refers to you go through a black swan event and you come out better than you went in before. You come out being able to do things you weren't able to do before. You come out doing things that you were doing before, not just better, but reaching a broader group, a broader audience in more productive ways. You also come out with fewer elements that leave you exposed to whatever caused the black swan event in the first place. That's anti-fragility. And you really want to aim for anti-fragility wherever possible rather than just resilience. Why? Well, two reasons. Reason number one, in resilience, if anything fails, you drop into one of the other two paths, and that's not good. Whereas if something fails with anti-fragility, you just drop into resilience. You're still okay. So that's the first and frankly main reason that you really want to prioritize anti-fragility in your thinking. But there's a second reason. And the second reason has everything to do with the world we're living in, which is that we're in a world where black swans are not now flying in once every other day or every year or every decade. We're in a world where black swans are flying in every day. And in a world where black swans are flying in every day, if you just aim for resilience, all you're saying is, oh, I'm just gritting my teeth to keep on going through this. You're better off saying, let's go for anti-fragility. Let's get something out of this world that we're living in. Let's make what I'm doing better, more effective, etc. So here is where we say, okay, so what do you need to develop anti-fragility? Well, there are several things you need. One of them I'm going to save for a little bit later, which is, well, you can't predict black swan events. You can figure out where they're coming from, and that's a different story. We'll come back to that in a minute. But the other thing you need is you need models for uses of different aspects, tools, technologies, etc., that help you target anti-fragility, that help you think not just about how do I use this tool to sort of get by or because I have no choice in the matter or whatever it is. You need models that allow you to think about, now in the context, for instance, of education, how do I use technology in education in such a way that you get the maximum mileage, and that use is best targeted towards what's involved in anti-fragility.